The loudest laugh in the room came from my own father. Not because I had told a joke, because he had just introduced me to 50 guests as the family's houseman. For a second, I actually thought I'd misheard him. I was standing only a few feet away, carrying a birthday cake into my aunt's backyard when he smiled proudly and said, "Don't mind him, he's just the houseman. He takes care of the place." Everyone laughed. Some politely, some awkwardly. A few looked genuinely uncomfortable. I stood there, holding the cake, while my heart slowly sank into my stomach. I wasn't the houseman. I was his son. And before that birthday party ended, every person in that backyard would discover why he had lied. My name is Zephyr Arden. People often assume humiliation comes from strangers. It doesn't. The deepest wounds are almost always delivered by the people who know exactly where to aim. Growing up, my parents only cared about one thing: appearances. If the neighbors admired us, they were happy. If relatives complimented the family, life was peaceful. But if anything threatened the image they wanted to project, someone had to become the sacrifice. Usually, that someone was me. My younger brother, Cassian, was brilliant at making people love him. He never raised his voice, never argued, never accepted responsibility either.
If he crashed the family car, I had been distracting him. If money disappeared, I must have borrowed it. If our parents fought, somehow I'd created the stress. It became a running joke inside the family. If something goes wrong, everyone would laugh. Ask Zephyr. I laughed too, because pretending something doesn't hurt is easier than admitting it does. My aunt, Morel, was different. She treated me like a human being. Every birthday she baked my favorite cinnamon pie. Every Christmas she secretly slipped an extra gift into my hands because she knew my parents always spent 3 times more on Cassian. "Don't compare yourself," she'd whisper. "You're enough." Those words stayed with me for years. When I turned 24, I left home. Not because I wanted to, because staying meant accepting that I would always be the family disappointment. I rented a tiny apartment with stained carpets and leaky pipes. The first winter, I couldn't afford proper heating. I'd boil water just to make the room feel warmer. During the day, I worked maintenance jobs. At night, I cleaned office buildings. On weekends, I repaired appliances for anyone willing to pay cash. My hands were always dirty, my back constantly hurt, but every dollar I earned belonged to me. No one could take credit for it. No one could use it to control me. One rainy evening, while repairing an old refrigerator for a retired restaurant owner named Harold Fenwick, he watched me work in silence. Finally, he asked, "Ever thought about running your own business?" I laughed. "With what money? What about skill?" I shrugged. "Skill doesn't pay startup costs." He smiled. "It does if someone believes in you." 3 months later, Harold loaned me enough money to buy a used service van. He refused interest. Instead, he said, "Pay me back by helping someone else when you can." That sentence changed my life. Within 4 years, my one-man repair business became a property maintenance company. Apartment complexes hired us, hotels hired us, commercial buildings signed yearly contracts. Whenever profits increased, I hired another technician. Not because I wanted to become rich, because I remembered exactly what it felt like to need someone to believe in me.
By my 34th birthday, Arden Facility Solutions employed nearly 90 people. Most of my family had no idea, not because I hid it, because nobody ever asked. Whenever my mother called, every conversation sounded exactly the same. "How's work?" "Busy." "Oh." Then she'd spend 30 minutes talking about Cassian, his vacations, his promotions, his expensive watches, his luxury apartment. I was happy for him. At least, I tried to be. Then one afternoon, Aunt Morel called. "I have a favor." "Anything." "My 60th birthday. I'll be there." She hesitated. "Your parents are organizing everything." "I figured." "Promise me you won't skip it." "I wouldn't miss your birthday." She sighed with relief. "Thank you." The party was held at her enormous countryside estate. Nearly 50 guests filled the garden. Live music drifted through the trees. Waiters carried silver trays between elegant tables. As soon as I arrived, my mother hurried toward me. "Oh, good." She shoved an apron into my hands. "Can you help the catering staff?" I blinked. "I'm a guest. They're overwhelmed. I came to celebrate Aunt Morel. You can celebrate while helping." Before I could answer, she'd already disappeared. I looked down at the apron. For a second, I considered taking it off. Instead, I put it on. Not because she ordered me to. Because Aunt Morel deserved a peaceful birthday. For the next hour, I carried decorations, moved tables, helped elderly relatives find seats, fixed a loose electrical cable before someone tripped over it. No one thanked me. No one noticed. Except Aunt Morel. She squeezed my shoulder as she walked past. "I knew you'd save the day." I smiled. I learned from the best. Then came the birthday cake. The catering manager handed it to me carefully, straight to the center table. "I've got it." As I carried the enormous cake through the garden, guests applauded. The band stopped playing. Everyone gathered around. My father stepped forward to make a toast. He raised his champagne glass. "Before we sing," he laughed, "I'd like to thank everyone who helped make today possible." People clapped. He pointed toward the catering team. "They've been wonderful." More applause. Then he pointed directly at me. "And don't mind him," he grinned. "He's just the houseman." The laughter spread almost instantly. "He keeps everything running around here." Someone actually thanked me for maintaining the property. Another guest nodded politely and asked how long I'd worked for the family. My father never corrected them. Neither did my mother. Cassian looked down into his drink to hide a smile. Aunt Morel's smile disappeared. She stepped forward. "What did you just say?" Dad waved casually. "Oh, relax." "No," her voice sharpened. "What did you call my nephew?" He laughed again. "It was just easier than explaining." "Explaining what?" "That he shrugged, "does odd jobs." I quietly placed the birthday cake on the table. Every eye remained fixed on us. For years, I'd imagined this moment. Not this exact scene, but the feeling. The moment when I finally stopped trying to earn respect from people determined never to give it. I slowly untied the apron, folded it carefully, and placed it beside the cake. Then I looked at my father. "I have a question." He smirked. "What?" "If I'm only the houseman," I reached into my jacket and removed a small black envelope, "then why did your bank spend the last 3 weeks begging to schedule a meeting with me?" His smile vanished. So did my mother's. Cassian looked confused. "What bank?" I glanced toward the front entrance of the estate. 3 black luxury SUVs had just pulled through the gates. As several people in business suits stepped out and began walking toward the garden, I quietly slipped the envelope back into my pocket. For the first time all afternoon, my father looked genuinely afraid. The music stopped, not because anyone asked the band to stop, because every musician had turned to look at the 3 black SUVs rolling slowly toward the garden. Even the waiters froze. The first person to step out was a woman in a charcoal gray suit carrying a leather portfolio. Behind her came 2 men and another woman, all dressed like executives rather than party guests. My father leaned toward me. "What is this?" I answered calmly. "I thought I was just the houseman." His jaw tightened. "Stop playing games." "I learned from the best." The group reached the patio. The woman in front smiled politely. "Mr. Arden?" She wasn't looking at my father. She was looking directly at me. "Yes?" "I'm Celeste Rowan, Regional Director of First Meridian Commercial Bank." She extended her hand. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you in person." I shook her hand. "The pleasure is mine." My father stared between us. "There must be a mistake." Celeste looked puzzled. "Mistake?" Dad hesitated. Family. I know. She smiled warmly. Mr. Arden has been one of our most valued commercial clients for years. The backyard fell silent. I could almost hear people breathing. Cassian laughed nervously. What kind of business? Before I could answer, another man stepped forward. I'm Victor Hale, Chief Operations Officer for Harbor Stone Hospitality. He smiled. Mr. Arden, congratulations on the Riverside contract. Thank you. We're looking forward to expanding with your company. Several relatives exchanged confused looks. My uncle whispered, What company? Victor answered before I could. Arden Facility Solutions. He looked around proudly. They're one of the fastest-growing commercial maintenance firms in the region. My mother blinked. Maintenance? Dad smirked, relieved. Oh, there it is. So you clean buildings. The words drew a few awkward chuckles. I didn't react. Victor did. I'm sorry? Dad folded his arms. He owns a cleaning company. Victor stared at him. No. He smiled politely, assuming he'd misunderstood. He owns an infrastructure management corporation. Nobody spoke. Victor continued. They maintain hospitals, airports, hotels, manufacturing facilities, research campuses, and government properties. He looked at me. Didn't you say your family knew? I smiled faintly. I assumed they did. The silence became heavier. Celeste opened her portfolio. We actually came because the acquisition documents require your original signature. My father frowned. Acquisition? She nodded. Mr. Arden is finalizing the purchase of the Ashcroft Commercial Center. Several relatives gasped. Everyone in town knew Ashcroft. It wasn't a building. It was an entire business district. My cousin whispered, That's impossible. Celeste looked surprised. The transaction has been public for over a month.
She turned another page. The purchase value is approximately $148 million. A wine glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered against the patio stones. Nobody even looked down. Every face was fixed on me. My father slowly sat down. His legs had given out. Cassian forced a laugh. So, he swallowed. You're rich now? I shrugged. I've been comfortable for a while. For a while? Victor chuckled. Mr. Arden has turned down acquisition offers from 3 international firms. Celeste smiled. He prefers growing the company himself. The relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly found their voices. I had no idea. This is incredible. You should have told us. I looked around the garden. The same people who had laughed 10 minutes earlier were now trying to stand closer to me. The distance between success and popularity is surprisingly short. Aunt Morell walked over quietly. She slipped her arm through mine. I always knew. I smiled. I know. She squeezed my hand. I wasn't talking about the business. That nearly broke me. Because she was right. She had always believed in me long before anyone knew my name. My father finally stood again. His voice sounded softer than I'd ever heard. Son? I looked at him. I think, he forced a smile, we've gotten off on the wrong foot today. A few relatives nodded eagerly. Mom stepped closer. We're proud of you. I couldn't help smiling. Not because I believed her, because she'd never once said those words before learning how much I was worth. Cassian walked over and clapped my shoulder. You should have told us. I tried. When? I spent 10 years waiting for someone to ask how I was doing.
He removed his hand. No answer, because there wasn't one. The catering staff began quietly clearing dishes, unsure whether the party was still happening. Then Celeste leaned toward me. We also brought the presentation. I nodded. Perfect timing. My father frowned. Presentation? I looked at the executives. Would you mind? Victor smiled. Of course. One of the assistants rolled a large monitor from the SUV and connected it to a portable battery. The company logo appeared on the screen. ARD Facility Solutions. Below it were architectural renderings, hotels, medical centers, office towers. Then a map. The land surrounding Aunt Mirel's estate was highlighted in gold. My father looked confused. "What is this?" I answered honestly. "The reason I accepted today's invitation." His expression changed instantly. "You planned this?" "No."
I looked at Aunt Mirel. I planned something for her. She stared at the screen. "What am I looking at?" I smiled. "Your birthday present." The next slide appeared. A beautiful wellness retreat, community gardens, walking trails, a medical clinic, an arts center, everything built around preserving the historic estate. Aunt Mirel covered her mouth. "What?" Her voice trembled. "Is this?" I took a slow breath. 3 years ago, you told me you were worried developers would buy the neighboring farmland after you retired. Tears filled her eyes. "I remember." "So," I pointed toward the presentation, "I bought every parcel surrounding your property." The backyard erupted in stunned whispers. "You bought all that land? When? How much?" I ignored the questions. I looked only at my aunt. "You spent your whole life taking care of everyone else." She began crying openly. "I wanted to spend the next chapter taking care of you." Before she could answer, my father's phone rang. He glanced at the screen. His expression immediately darkened. He stepped away to answer. 30 seconds later, he slowly lowered the phone. His face had gone completely pale. When he turned back toward me, I knew something had happened, something he never expected. He whispered just loudly enough for me to hear, "They've called in every loan." I met his eyes, and for the first time in my life, he looked at me not as his forgotten son, but as the only person who might be able to save everything he had spent a lifetime building. For years, I had imagined my father asking me for help. In every version, I pictured anger, bitterness, the desire to make him feel every ounce of humiliation he had poured onto me. Instead, when I looked at him standing there with a trembling phone in his hand, I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt clarity. He walked toward me slowly, almost as if every step cost him his pride. "We need to talk." I nodded toward the quiet garden path beside the estate. "Let's walk." Behind us, no one resumed the party. 50 people watched in complete silence. The same silence that had followed his Houseman joke, only this time, nobody was laughing. As soon as we were out of earshot, he spoke. "The bank called every commercial loan." I waited. "They're demanding immediate restructuring." I still said nothing. They're demanding immediate restructuring." I still said nothing. "Our company can't survive it?" I asked gently. He corrected himself. "My company." I nodded. "What happened?" He sighed deeply. "The market changed. Contracts were lost. I borrowed more than I should have." There was something strangely honest about him for the first time. No excuses, no blaming someone else, just facts. Then he looked directly at me. "I need your help." There it was, the sentence I'd waited years to hear. Not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted him to finally acknowledge that I had become someone worth asking. "I can help." Relief flooded across his face. "I knew you would. But not the way you think." His smile faded. "What does that mean?" "I won't write you a check." His shoulders dropped. "Zephyr, I'll invest in the people." He frowned. "What people?" "The employees.
I had quietly researched my father's business months earlier. I knew things he assumed no one knew. His business wasn't failing because the workers were lazy. It was failing because leadership had ignored reality. Experienced managers had been replaced with friends. Profits had been spent on appearances instead of equipment. Good employees had been dismissed for disagreeing with executives. The business wasn't broken. Its leadership was. I've already prepared an offer. I handed him a folder from my briefcase. He opened it slowly. His eyes widened. This. He looked up. You're offering to acquire the company? Yes. He kept reading. You'll retain every employee? Yes. Their salaries remain protected? Yes. The retirement plans stay intact? Yes. His voice became almost inaudible. And Cassian and I stepped down permanently. I met his eyes. Also yes. He closed the folder. So I'd lose the company? No, you already lost it. You just haven't accepted it yet. He stared at me for a long time. Then he whispered the question I never expected. When did I stop seeing you? That one hurt, because it wasn't manipulation, it was regret. I answered honestly. The day you started caring more about what people thought than about who your children were. His eyes filled with tears. I thought success meant protecting the family name. You protected the name. I looked back toward the party. You forgot the people carrying it. He couldn't argue, because he knew I was right. We walked back together. Everyone looked at us. My mother rushed forward. What happened? My father looked around the garden, at relatives, friends, business associates. Then he took the microphone that had been used for birthday speeches. His hands shook. I need everyone's attention. No one moved. He looked at me first, then at the guests. A few minutes ago, he swallowed hard. I introduced my own son as the Houseman. No one spoke. I wasn't joking. His voice cracked. I was trying to make myself look important by making him look small. The honesty stunned everyone. He continued, I've spent years praising one child while overlooking the other. My mother quietly lowered her head. I taught people how to underestimate Zephyr. He turned toward me. And today I learned that the person I underestimated most, his voice broke, was my own son. The silence felt heavier than applause ever could. Then something happened that I never expected. My father stepped down from the small stage, walked across the garden, and hugged me. Not the stiff handshake he usually preferred. A real hug, the kind fathers are supposed to give their sons. I am so sorry. I closed my eyes. For just a second, I was 12 years old again, waiting for my dad to be proud of me. When we stepped apart, he looked at the guests. I owe everyone the truth. He pointed toward me. This isn't the Houseman. A faint smile spread across my face. This, he took a deep breath. This is the man who built a company from nothing while I was too blind to notice. People began applauding, not because I was wealthy, because they had just witnessed something far rarer than success, someone admitting they were wrong. Then I turned toward Aunt Morell. I believe this birthday has been interrupted long enough. She laughed through tears. I agree. I handed her the leather folder containing the architectural plans. Happy birthday. She opened it slowly. Page after page revealed the wellness retreat, scholarship center, community gardens, medical clinic. Everything dedicated in her name. She covered her mouth. You built all this? For me? For everyone you've spent your life helping. She hugged me so tightly I almost lost my balance. It's the most beautiful gift I've ever received. Months later, construction began. The Morel Community Retreat became a place where struggling families, veterans, widows, and young entrepreneurs could receive support, counseling, and training. It wasn't built to honor wealth, it was built to honor kindness. My father visited often, not as the owner, as a volunteer. He spent weekends planting trees with retired veterans. My mother organized literacy programs for children. Cation surprised everyone. He apologized, not once, but consistently, through his actions. He accepted a junior position in one of our regional offices. No special treatment, no executive title. He earned every promotion the hard way. The biggest surprise wasn't that my family changed, it was that they finally stopped pretending appearances mattered more than character. One afternoon, almost a year later, I found the old apron folded neatly inside a box in my office, the same apron my mother had handed me at Aunt Morel's birthday. I smiled. Then I framed it, not as a reminder of humiliation, but as proof that the clothes people make you wear never define who you are. The life you build does. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't proving your enemies wrong. It's becoming so strong that the people who underestimated you have no choice but to face the truth, and then giving them the chance to become better than they were. If you've ever been treated as less than by the people who should have believed in you most, tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you had been standing in my place?